want to go a little deep right now, bro. Y'all already see the title, dog. The hidden power of sex in your mind. Bro, I feel like I'm at the age where I see how trivialized sex is. It's taken as too much of a joke, bro. It's taken too lightly, and I'm trying to see like what serious mental patterns, bro, and mental pathways, you know what I'm saying, I could get into in terms of like my content consumption, like what I watch, you know what I'm saying, what I listen to, what I choose to fucking entertain type shit. So it's a Carl Jung thingy, bro, and Carl Jung I think was a latter day back, you know what I'm saying, back in the days of Jesus, I think, and or some maybe a couple years later than that. Yeah, he lived during that time, and I think he was a therapist. Yo, don't quote me on this though. Don't quote me on this. I don't know. I just know the nigga deep, bro, and I fuck with his concept. So I just want to see what's going on right here real quick.
Welcome to the channel. Today we are going to talk about a topic that somehow crosses everyone's life, even if we don't always realize it. Desire, and more specifically, the power that desire and sexuality have within our unconscious. Have you ever stopped to think to what extent your desire influences your choices, your relationships, your decisions, even your way of seeing yourself and seeing others? What we call love, passion, attraction is just a biological issue. Or is there something deeper going on inside the mind? Carl Jung, one of the greatest names in analytical psychology, believed that sexuality was not just a function of the body. It is, above all, symbolic, a language of the unconscious, an archetypal force that carries meanings, traumas, fantasies, and that shapes our way of living, loving, seeking meaning in life. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. But calm down, this video is not about sex. The way people usually talk about it. It's not about what's right or wrong, beautiful or ugly. Here we're going to look at sexuality as a psychic energy, something that, when well understood, can be transformed into creativity, freedom, consciousness, and even spirituality. So leave your like. This really helps the channel reach more people who like to think outside the box. And subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Every week we bring reflections on human behavior, practical philosophy and psychology deep. And answer me one thing in the comments. Do you think that desire controls us? Or that we can control desire? I really want to know how you see this. Comment below and I'll read everything. When we talk about sex,
I feel like life is about desire, Doug. I really feel like life is about desire, because every decision you make, bro, is about like where your body is trying to get to, even to the smallest detail. For example, you're on a couch, right? You're on a couch chilling, probably fried, probably not, probably hungry as fuck, eating, chilling, drinking your drink, whatever. You're not gonna sit there the whole day, for example, right? You're gonna want to stand up, maybe go try 6ix9ine, you know what I'm saying? Go take a shit. You feel me? Something's gonna itch up your butt. You're gonna have to you're gonna have to stand up, and you know what I'm saying? So even down to that decision of, shit, my ass itches. Let me stand up, scratch that, get right, then get back to what I was doing. That is a desire. I desire for this itch to get away from my butt, right? So every decision you make, all the way to the big shit, bro, like the type of human being you want to be, your career decisions and shit like that, you know what I'm saying, the clothes you want to wear, it's because you desire to be looked at in a certain way, right? And I guess this also highlights the fact that even, yeah, sex is about desire, but then if we just like strip it down to just understanding what desire is, then we can understand more about like what sex is really.
most people immediately think of something physical, instinctive, linked to pleasure or reproduction. But for Jung, sex goes far beyond that. It is a force that is born in the body, yes, but that gains a much deeper meaning when we look at it through the lens of the unconscious. Jung saw sexuality as an archetypal energy. This means that it is not just a biological need, but a kind of universal symbol present in all cultures, myths, religions, and stories of humanity. It is as if desire were a language that the unconscious uses to express itself, and that appears disguised in our fantasies, in our dreams, in our searches, even in our anxieties. This energy, when misunderstood or repressed, can become chaotic, generating compulsions, conflicts, addictions, and frustrations. But when we start to look at with more awareness, it can be channeled into something much greater than just momentary pleasure. It can become art, it can become insight, it can become healing. And this happens because desire is ultimately linked to the movement of the soul. It is what drives us to leave our place, to seek something, to get closer to someone, to create, to transform. It is what invites us to live with intensity, and at the same time, it is what confronts us with our shadows, our fears, our insecurities. Jung believed that this sexual force is actually one of the manifestations of what he called libido, but not in the purely sexual, Freudian sense. For Jung, libido is a broader vital energy that can express itself in many ways. Desire for a person, for an idea, for a purpose, for a transformation. And the most interesting thing is that this energy can be transformed. It can change direction, form, intensity.
It can transform
When you repress it, it doesn't disappear. It hides and disguises itself. But when you welcome it, listen to it and understand what it's trying to say, it integrates. And that's where sexuality comes in. From being just an impulse and becoming a tool for personal growth. It's as if desire wasn't just trying to take you out to someone for
Atlas AI voiceover.
some experience, but also inward to a place where you can truly find yourself, a place where desire becomes a bridge, not a prison. Now, to better understand how this sexual energy works within us, we need to talk about two fundamental concepts of Jungian psychology: the anima and the animus. These two names represent the feminine and the masculine, but not in the external sense of gender or social behavior. Jung said that we all carry within our psyche an image of the opposite. That is, within every man there is an inner woman, the anima, and within every woman there is an inner man, the animus. These images are not simple characters. They are archetypes. Symbolic
archetypes, yes. So basically, I feel like, okay, according to my understanding, bro, like I've been like kind of doing my little research on things like this, and it's like what this is, because before I never seen it as like I have a woman inside of me, right? I'm not able to be pregnant, my nigga. So it's not a literal like human being inside of my body or some shit like that. But it's the fact that I feel like it's the measure of the femininity inside you as a man, right? Versus the percentage of masculinity inside you as a woman. Because just because you're a woman, bro, doesn't mean you're pure feminine. Like you're pure nurturing, blah blah blah. That's why you get shades of females, bro. Shades of women that like are mad masculine, or women that grow beard, bro. There's women that, right, beards, they come out of their faces. The fuck did I just say? There's women that grow beards, dog. Like a couple strands of beards. Like I've seen that. That's an element of masculinity. Like it's I feel like it's an element of masculinity, but in the chemical form, in the form where it's like the chemical inside of the body that's released to produce facial hair. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's one of those factory faults. You know what I'm saying? Everything got a factory fault, but it doesn't mean the shit don't function, or it doesn't mean the human is not a human just because she's a woman and she got a beard. She could be fired too. I've seen like even women with like a little mustache, a little bit. They're kind of cute, bro, but it's, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? They can get it too though, but probably like if a nigga mad drunk type shit. But you see, it's those kind of things where this anima and animus thing can explain it. You know what I mean? And then also vice versa in a man. You see a man, you know, that's kind of feminine in nature, in taste, in just, you know, how they talk, how they reason. Yeah, you feel me? So it's a percentage of the opposite. Okay, now I was about to say some bullshit. My bad, dude. Never mind that, y'all. Never mind that. So yeah, If you're a guy, you got a percentage of femininity in you. If you're a girl or a woman, you got a percentage of masculinity. So I guess psychologically, this is how they call these animus and anima and shit like this.
Forms that profoundly influence the way we relate to others and to ourselves. They are projections of the unconscious that shape our feelings, our idealizations, our judgments, and even our choices. Think about it. How many times have you felt intensely attracted to someone who didn't even make much sense rationally? Or how many times have you idealized someone in an almost magical way, placing in that person all the qualities you desired, as if they were the missing half? Many times, what's happening there is a projection of your soul or your moods. You're not seeing the other person as they really are.
Yeah.
You're seeing a part of you that is hidden unconsciously, and that manifests itself through desire. It's as if the other person is...
I think that's the concept of projection, bro. You know? It's like, it's something that is in you that you wish you could see in someone else. Right? Type shit. Like, that's what I understand in, like, projection. Because Buddy over here was like, yo, it's a part of you that you see in someone else. And it manifests as desire. So you know, you desire to keep seeing it, but it's actually in you.
Unconscious uses the other to show what you need to integrate within yourself. That's why Jung said that love is often a kind of encounter with the unconscious, and that if we don't recognize this, we end up living confusing relationships that are too idealized or even destructive, because deep down we are trying to find something outside that is actually missing inside. The anima in man represents contact with the emotional world, with sensitivity, with intuition, with receptivity. When it is integrated, man can access these qualities of fearless, shameless, but when it is repressed or distorted, it appears in the form of projections, such as the idealized woman, the unattainable muse, or even the femme fatale who seduces and then destroys. In women, the animus is the image of the inner masculine. It represents reason, action, firmness, direction.
Did I just say that?
When it is well...
I ain't just said that. Right? That's it. That's all. To my new career path, nigga. Therapy shit type shit.
integrated, it brings strength, structure, focus. But when it is poorly resolved, it appears in the form of internal criticism, rigidity, excess rationality, or even in the form of that idealized man, strong protective savior, that often do not exist in reality. These archetypes act in our unconscious all the time. They influence the way we are attracted to someone, how we expect to be loved, and even what we project in a relationship. And what Jung invites us to do is to stop looking outside for what is missing inside and begin a process of integration. That is, look at these internal images more carefully, understand what they are trying to show us, and allow the feminine and masculine within us can dialogue, cooperate, and balance each other, because in the end, the true encounter is always with ourselves. And that's where one of Jung's most provocative ideas comes in. Many times when we fall in love, we are not truly loving the other person. We are loving a mirror, a reflection,
the projection,
a part of ourselves that was projected onto that person.
Exactly, bro.
It may seem strange at first, but think about it. How many times have you met someone and felt that intense connection, almost as if you were a soulmate?
So does it mean that you falling in love, you're basically falling in love with yourself? And therefore, that's what makes self-love like a really deep concept. Because that's what it is. You're falling in love with a projection that's in your own consciousness, right? Subconsciousness, according to. But it's you. You feel me? So basically, in other words, any human being can take that role. So you can give that, you know what I'm saying? That desire that you're throwing on someone else, and then that's all you see when you fantasize. You know what I'm saying? Or when you like just imagine this person. You know what I'm saying? That's basically, you can give that to that projection. It can be anybody. So that's why it's kind of no such thing as that one soulmate for you, bro. A whole lot of these concepts are being like killed. I ain't gonna lie. They being like deadened.
As if that person completed you in a way. An inexplicable way, this for Jung is often the anima or spirits acting in full. It is the unconscious using the other to reveal something that is still hidden within you. These projections are not stupid illusions. In fact, they have a function. The unconscious does this to try to show you something that needs to be recognized, welcomed and integrated. For example, if a man projects anima onto a woman, it may be that he is trying to reconnect with his own sensitivity, with his emotional side, with a creative part that was forgotten. If a woman projects her animus onto a man, perhaps she is seeking strength, structure, direction, but not in the other, but in herself. The problem is that when we do not realize this dynamic, we begin to demand from the other what he never promised to be. We begin to idealize too much, to expect perfection, to suffer from expectations that will never be fulfilled. And then love becomes confusion, frustration, even pain. How many times have you heard or lived that story of a relationship that began magical, intense, beautiful, and then turned into an emotional nightmare?
All the time.
Jungian language, this happens because the projection was broken. The idealized image begins to crumble, and we begin to see the other as he really is, an imperfect human being different from the fantasy. But look, this is not bad. This is part of the process. Jung said that the objective of the projection is precisely to be broken, because it is at this moment that you have the chance to remove this image of the other and reintegrate it within yourself. It is at this moment that love stops being an illusion and begins to become truth, when you stop demanding that the other complete you and begins to complete itself completely. When you understand that the other person can be a companion on your journey, but not your savior, not your ideal mirror or the missing piece of the puzzle, this type of more conscious love is born after you look in the mirror and decide to continue on the path with your own feet. That's when desire begins to stop being need and becomes power. And it's exactly at this point that we begin to see sexuality with different eyes. For Jung, sex is not just an experience of the body. It is a portal to something greater. Something that, if we have the courage to cross, can take us to a much deeper level of consciousness. He called this individuation the process of becoming who you really are, by integrating all the parts of your psyche, including those that you hide, reject or project onto others. Sexual energy, when it is not repressed or lived unconsciously, is transformed. It becomes fuel. It becomes the will to create, to seek meaning, to transform your pain into art, your emptiness into your connection, confusion into clarity. This is why in many ancient traditions, sex was seen as something sacred, not because it was pure in the moral sense, but because it was a powerful force linked to life, creation and transcendence. Jung rescued this more symbolic vision of sexuality. He understood that when we connect with this desire in a conscious way, it can lead us to a type of awakening. It is not for nothing that he spoke of the archetype of the sexual hero. And this hero is not the conqueror or the seducer. He is the one who goes through his own desire. He faces his shadows, recognizes his projections, and returns to himself more whole. He is the one who does not run away from the fire, but learns to walk within it, without getting burned. Of course, this is not simple. We live in a culture that either exaggerates sex too much or tries to hide it, control it, repress it, or it is treated as a commodity, as an empty pleasure or as a taboo. But Jung proposes another path, that of integration, of looking at desire without fear, without guilt, without idealizations, of understanding that desire can indeed bring you down, but it can also lift you up. It can enslave you, but it can set you free. It all depends on the awareness you place on it. When you
Yeah, and I feel like this is even like the whole chat about shadow work. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like this is where the self-development gurus and people like that try to get to. These are the mental images that they try to explain, bro. I swear to God.
Begin to understand what you are really looking for behind each attraction, each need, each fantasy, another relationship with sexuality begins to emerge, freer, more honest, more transformative. And it is at this point that desire stops being just instinct and becomes a spiritual path. But to reach this level of awareness, there is a step that many people avoid.
Yeah, it's a spiritual path, bro. It's like that whole spiritual awakening shit, dog. It's that whole spiritual awakening. I feel like even you know sometimes you get situations where you go through some shit and it feels like your paradigms are shifting, dog. It's like you losing friends, you losing, you know, your girlfriends, your social circles. You feel what I'm saying? Even what you was into, like everything changes. That's because you had projected that image that Mans is talking about. You know, that whole image of like what you desire in something. And yeah, at the beginning it may seem like, bro, this is what it is, right? It may have that image, but that's because that desire that you project on this thing, object, place, whatever, it's like it's still ripe in your head, bro. You still seeing the fantasy like mad clear. You feel me? Mad like intentional about it. You like, yeah, nah, this is what it is. Until true colors of that thing that you're projecting this image on, until those true colors like pull up, bro. And then it's like, oh my god. And sometimes these things, it takes a minute for you to realize these things. But that's when your paradigm has shifted, bro. And that spiritual effect, that's when this shit takes that spiritual effect where your desires are illusions at that point, right? I mean, take with the example of Soul, you know what I mean, Illuminati. So with his whole situation, when I saw, you know, his breakup really inspired that the infamous disappearance of this nigga, you know what I'm saying? And then I explained this in my previous stream too. Like, I bumped into his content when I was going through my little spiritual awakening, right? I was going through that, and I just see nothing but just this nigga just hitting the nature. He out in the sun, talking about getting vitamin D. You know what I'm saying? I was going through my own spiritual shifts, my nigga. You understand what I mean? And so therefore, I'm obviously looking for someone to relate to online. On some, yo, who's kicking this game? Who's kicking this knowledge? I bumped into Soul's content, and I was like, damn, this is crazy. Only to find out, literally a month ago, I found out that homie was going through his own little spiritual awakenings. You know what I'm saying? Within that whole frame of time. And, you know, shit like, you know, that girl Ash had left him and blah, blah, blah. And I was going through some similar shit, you know what I mean? And it's that kind of thing where it's like he was going through a whole spiritual shift, but he was in a position where he shared it online. He could share it online and inspire other people, aka myself, in the process. You know what I'm saying? So, damn. It actually makes more sense, like, breaking it down like that type shit. So.
The encounter with the shadow for Jung. The shadow is everything that we reject in ourselves. Everything that was repressed, hidden, denied, either because society didn't accept it, because the family condemned it, or because we ourselves couldn't deal with it. And sexuality tends to be one of the most hidden parts in this shadow. From an early age, many people learn that feeling desire is ugly, that it's not allowed, that it's a sin, that it's dangerous. So what happens is that we push these feelings under the rug of the unconscious,
and even that
but
is
they
a
don't go
projection,
away.
dog.
They come back in the form of guilt, shame, fear, troubled relationships, behaviors that we don't even understand. Where does Jung come from? He said that what you deny dominates you, and what you accept transforms you. So when we start looking at our own sexual shadow, at everything that was hidden, suffocated, or distorted, we gradually begin to regain control of our own energy. It's not an easy process. It's uncomfortable, yes, sometimes even painful, but it's deeply liberating. And here it's not about living whatever you want or doing whatever you want without a filter. It's not about giving in to impulse, but about listening to what that impulse wants. Say, because desire also speaks, it reveals. It points to something that is asking for attention. Often something that you didn't even know existed within you.
And that's why desire is important too. It is important to listen to your desires, bro. Go after your desires, bro. You know what I'm saying? That's why it actually does make sense for you get like self-help community gurus and shit like that. People tell you, yo, go for your desires. These is like the ambitions that modern day minds go after, bro.
It is in
or
this
speak
dive into
about.
the unconscious that we begin to realize that the most intense, the most conflicting, the most forbidden desires can even carry important messages about our wounds, our limits, our deepest emotional needs. And when we face this part of the psyche head-on, we begin to gain a new type of freedom, not the freedom of do everything, but the freedom of no longer being a slave to anything, the freedom to make conscious choices, to relate, more truthfully, to break out of repetitive patterns that we often didn't even know we were. Trapped in the shadow is not your enemy. It is a portal to self-knowledge, and when you include sexuality in this process, you discover an incredible.
With Monday.com's intuitive work management,
Strength hidden right there, where before there was only fear or shame. It's like turning on a light in a room that has been locked for years. At first it's scary, but then you see that there are also parts of you that were waiting to be seen and loved. Within the symbolic universe of the psyche, Jung observed that the feminine carries a powerful duality. On one side, the figure of the mother, the welcoming, protective mother, who cares for and nurtures emotional security. On the other, the temptress, the seductive, instinctive, free woman who awakens desire, risk, and transformation. These two archetypes have existed since ancient times. They are in myths, religions, fairy
That's
tales,
why I'm like, it's in
and without us
percentage
realizing
levels,
it,
bro.
they are also present in our lives,
Yes.
unconscious, shaping our relationships, our desires, and even our emotional crises. The Mother Sita represents unconditional love, surrender, comfort, the emotional base. She is the woman who cares, who listens, who supports. But when this archetype becomes too dominant or unbalanced, it can turn into dependence, overprotection, and the erasure of one's own individuality to serve the other. The temptress carries the energy of passion, the movement of the creative force. She is instinctive, magnetic, provocative. She represents the power of awakening, but also the fear of losing control. And that is why historically this archetype has been so demonized, because it touches on what is most repressed, the desire for freedom, of intensity, to break away from what is safe. Jung rather that these two figures live within all of us, and it doesn't matter the gender. In men, they often appear as projections. He seeks a woman who is a mother and lover at the same time, and becomes frustrated when he discovers that no one can fulfill this divided role. In women, these
Oh my God, bro. That's why, like, it is important to have a female who's like tapped into the feminine side, bro. Yes, the whole masculine shit is cool, but it's about the balance of the two, bro. And I feel like we gotta, like, people have to reach this understanding, especially modern day, not just women but men too, bro. Where we have to be aware of both aspects of these things in us, not just the masculine. Oh, yeah, what up, buddy? No, let's go to the gym. Everything, $1 million in the bank. Oh, fuck these women. You know what I'm saying? It's like, bro, the feminine part in that as well. You feel what I'm saying? And I feel like the whole purpose of even man and woman marrying one another and shit like that is so that that balance can be realized in one another. Because if the woman, right, is it the animus or the anima that's in the woman, but the masculine reflection that is within the woman, right, the man is there so that she can tap more into that, because the man is the physical representation of that, in terms of the build, the physical build, the profile build. But and vice versa too, with the man, you know what I'm saying, the feminine projection of animus or anima, I can't remember what the allocation of the words is, but the femininity that you sense in yourself, the desire for being nurtured, you know what I'm saying, the desire for your emotions being identified, being able to be expressed and listened to, shit like that. Like the femininity, it's there for a reason, nigga. You're not tripping or high or fuck, I'm not supposed to be feeling this. No. And the woman in your life is supposed to like help you tap into that, so that when you see it physically, it's like, yo, my woman is already there, like doing. But I feel like even that, bro, is keeping it limited, because you're supposed to be able to tap into that to be a whole complete human being, and that's only my opinion at this point.
Internal images can generate conflict. Be sweet or be bold, be caring or be free, be accepted or be desired. The point is that these two forces are not opposites. They are complementary. And when we learn to recognize this duality within ourselves and to integrate the two sides of the feminine, we stop living in conflict. The woman who accepts her inner temptress no longer needs to hide her creative power or her sensuality. The man who recognizes his projection of the Scythian mother understands that he does not need to seek eternal embrace in a partner. He can learn to take care of himself too.
That's what I'm
saying. These archetypes are deeply linked to the way we
learning to tap into these two elements within your one self makes you literally boss, nigga. You're like the complete like version of what you're supposed to be, nigga. Bossed up, nigga. Guarded up, nigga. All of that. You're not just boss, nigga. You guard, nigga. Is that too deep? Is that too deep for your mind? Yo, y'all gonna have to let me know, cause you know what I'm saying. But you know what I'm saying. That's what I mean, though.
Love.
Told y'all these motherfuckers
Reject,
were gonna be on our ass.
idealize, and when they act in the unconscious, they can sabotage our relationships or limit our personal growth. But when we bring them to consciousness, we begin to see more clearly what we really seek in relationships and what we need to find first within ourselves. In the end, this dance between nourishment and seduction, between care and freedom, is what makes the feminine so deep and so transformative. So far we have understood that desire is not a simple impulse, nor something that should be ignored or repressed. It is a language of the unconscious, an internal movement that can serve as a compass for those who seek to truly grow. And that is where a very strong symbolic figure appears in Jung's work, The Sexual Hero. But calm down. Do not confuse it with that stereotype of the stud, or the femme fatale that society usually exalts. The sexual hero that Jung proposes is not someone who conquers bodies, but someone who conquers. He is the one who goes through his own passions, who faces his deepest and most confusing desires, and instead of getting lost in them, finds himself. This hero does not deny desire. He dives into it, but with awareness. He recognizes that desire can be a trap, but it can also be a master, because desire reveals where our wounds, our needs, our most hidden longings are. And by facing this head-on, the hero begins to free himself, not because he has stopped desiring, but because he has come to understand what is behind desire. You know that feeling of being stuck in a cycle of similar relationships or repeating the same emotional mistakes? Jung would say that therein lies the call of the hero's journey, because these patterns repeat themselves until we learn from them, until we stop looking outside for what needs to be awakened inside. The sexual hero learns to use this energy as a creative impulse, as a healing force, as a power of transformation. He understands that desire does not need to be denied. It needs to be elevated, sublimated. And here, sublimating is not repressing or spiritualizing. Everything in an artificial way is channeling this force into something that expands consciousness, into art, into real connection, into personal transformation, into the creation of something with meaning. It's like transmuting fire, stopping burning with it, and starting to illuminate the path with its light. And look how interesting this hero's journey is. It's individual, but it also has collective reflections. Because the more we know ourselves, the more we relate in a true way. And the more aware we are of our desire, the less we manipulate, hurt, or depends on others to feel whole. So, in the end, the sexual hero is not the one who overcomes desire, but the one who overcomes it and comes back with wisdom. After this whole journey of facing projections, integrating archetypes, going through the shadow and awakening, the inner hero, we begin to realize that sexuality was never just about pleasure, nor just about the body. It is in fact a bridge between instinct and spirit, between what drives us and what transforms us. For Jung, the impulse, sexual energy is one of the most powerful forms of psychic energy, but it does not need to be confined to the physical plane. This same force, when recognized and channeled consciously, transforms into something greater: creativity, inspiration, connection with the sacred. In many ancient traditions, this was already understood. Sex was a ritual, it was meditation. It was a symbol of union with something that goes beyond the ego. It was not just about two people meeting, but about two souls recognizing each other, mirroring each other, opening paths for mutual...
It's so unfortunate though that sex has went from something that's supposed to be that sacred and like spiritual and powerful, bro, to like, yo, a couple hours, bro, after the club. You know what I'm saying? Even in the fucking alleyway type, quickie type vibe, it's crazy.
Transformation. It is clear that our modern culture has lost much of this perspective today. Sex is often treated as a product, a performance, a distraction, but the unconscious has not forgotten its deeper meaning. And when we open ourselves to look at desire with more presence and less judgment, we begin to realize that it is pointing to something inside, a call for expansion. It is not about denying the body. It is about going through the body until you find the soul. It is about letting instinct teach you but not dominate you. It is about allowing yourself to feel and at the same time learn to transform feeling into wisdom. And look how curious it is that...
Because it's more than just the feeling of it, man. It's more than just the feeling. Yeah. True shit, bro. I think I heard enough here, bro. But real shit. The power of sex is really crazy, bro. It's really crazy that sex has been cheapened, bro, and it's now just considered something really, really just accessible in the way that it is. Yeah, the meaning is sucked all the way out, bro. That's why even like, bro, it's played out. Everything is overly sexualized, making sex meaningless and shit like that. Obviously, like, that can discourage someone who's on a proper spiritual path, bro, who's on a proper spiritual journey, bro, towards growth and shit like that. That's fucking discouraging for somebody like that. But I feel like just remembering, like, what you really are, bro, what you're capable of, and, you know, your animus or animal or whatever the fuck that shit is. But it's like, yo, because, as I said, bro, you're not the only person going through that kind of journey, right? A lot of people are on that kind of spiritual journey to a point where when you're tapped into yourself at that level, it's like even somebody's historic, you know, like even your potential partner's sexual history won't have anything to do with how you feel, like your insecurities or things like that. I feel like that's where the scales fall away, bro. Shit like insecurities and all of that. I feel like once you don't let your partner's history let you do that, you know, trip out and wild out and crash out, it's like, you know, you've been doing the work and it's paying off really good. So a whole lot of people need this understanding, bro. No cap. No fucking cap, bro. You know what I'm saying? So shout out Carly.